George Lynch says Dokken could have been a much bigger band. This is the Rock and Roll Weatherman. My name is Sean Morrison. He goes on to say that it got stolen from the band. He was doing a new interview with Robert Edwards of the Talking About Rock. He spoke about the 1989 breakup of the classic Dokken lineup. Where the truth of the matter is, and he says he said it many, many times, and he's not saying it in any kind of disparaging way, but the fact is that Don Dokken really wanted to control everything and have the lion's share of the money. And that's really what it all came down to. Even though I think there were like four equal partners in the band at the time. And when you boil it down to its foundational element, most basic thing, that's what he was trying to accomplish. And he let us know that, and he got his own separate management, and then he had his own separate record deal, and he was trying to fire the band. Then he go on to say they couldn't do that, or whatever, or left, or whatever. He tried to fire them. And he couldn't do that, so he just started his own thing. And he sued the other members of Dokken. They countersued. George goes on to say the result was nothing, and everybody just went their own way. But everybody lost. We all did. I know he lost in court for using the name and everything. I heard apparently that Don Dokken had to pay attorney's fees to the other band members for losing the lawsuit. But getting back to that, when there's a lot of stuff you don't know back then with media, with the internet media and all that. Some of the stuff wasn't mentioned, but you know, I'm sorry, I'm getting caught here for a second. But when he left, when he formed the band of Don Dokken, which of course he had Mickey D in the band on drums and everything. He wanted to call the Up From Ashes album. He wanted to release it as a Dokken album, and of course that's when he lost in court. It would have been interesting if he would have been able to use the Dokken name at that time. It's funny right now he can call the band Dokken and it's just him now, and the other guys aren't involved. I believe that he bought the rest of the guys out later on. Okay, going back to the interview with George, we're talking about this. He said they've all done wonderful things since then and were satisfying and gratifying musically, and they all gave what was the short thing and all that they had worked for, and they did the build, and they did it the right way. They had the Cume Pride management at the time, and then it's just sad that Don wanted to go a separate way at the time. Friends, if you're not subscribed to the show, Morrison YouTube channel, please do so. Everyone else out to subscribe. We thank you very much for the continued love, honor, and support. It is greatly appreciated. George insisted there should have been four equal splits each way. He didn't care if he did most of the writing of a song or not, but unfortunately it didn't go that way. And he still feels he could have been on the level of Motley Crue or Bon Jovi, which obviously never happened. So far, will there be a new Dokken album with a classic lineup? He doesn't think so. That'll happen. There's been a rumor of that happening too. Classic lineup got back together to do dates in Japan only. So, friends, how do you feel about what George Lynch said about Dokken being what he said about Dokken could have been a much bigger band, could have been a much bigger band, and that it got stolen from them? Your thoughts? Shame, shame, shame.